Hi guys, I'm Stripped and welcome to a track breakdown of one of my Bandcamp releases called A Stack Spaghetti Sauce with vocals from Uncle Joe Biden over here.
So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket.
Yeah, so I already recorded this video for Patreon and YouTube like an hour ago, but it turned out that the audio was not coming through in Ableton or in OBS, so been just talking to myself for the last hour. So here we are, redoing it again. Fucking hell. Alright, so I am a music producer and DJ, and I also am the founder of MyBeat.io. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. It's this little neat tool to create final video clips for your releases. And yeah, it's basically free to use, so definitely check it out. I'll link it in the description. Or over there or there. I don't know how this works, man. I'm also teaching some music production over at the Marso EMC. Or not yet, depending on when this comes out. I'll just start the breakdown and show you my production process and go through every channel again. And show you the processing that's on there and how I just go about mixing and club mastering my releases. This track came out as a free download, which you can still download over my Bandcamp. Definitely check my other releases out as well, and follow me on Instagram and SoundCloud and YouTube over here. It's called subscribing, right? So do all those things or don't. It's up to you, man. I'd appreciate it, you know. Free content over here. So I'll just show you exactly which samples I've been using, which instruments, which presets. Maybe I said this already, I'm not sure. Show you the EQing, the compression, and yeah, just show you how I go about creating my minimal deep tech house, whatever you want to call it, and yeah, let's dive into it. I just first play out a little section of this track so you actually know what it sounds like. Here we are.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't. I no more think of myself as five. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What happens?
Yeah, so that's the basic idea of this track. I'll just get started going through the drums first. Let me just disable all this stuff over here. So we first up got the kick separated into a bottom and a top layer. If I am going through this a little bit fast, my apologies, but this is the second time I'm talking about this in depth. So yeah, a little little dip here around the 500-600 hertz to just take the knocking sound out a little bit. So without this EQ applied, it sounds like this. Which, you know, I mean, this is a very nice kick, as it's also called that way, but I just kind of more recently started taking those frequencies a little bit more down than usual, just because, I don't know, I kind of like that sound a little bit more these days. And then I got a separate top kick layer to fill out this space over here, which I'll show you in a little bit. The saturator on here, that's not doing anything. It's just that the saturator, the EQ and the compressor are on my channels by default, so every time I create a new track, that shit is on there already, like this. So here you got my little channel set up for my instrument and MIDI tracks. Or audio and MIDI tracks, I should say. Let's get rid of that. So afterwards you got the CLA, just a little bit of compression. Just gives it a little bit more thump in the low end. The top layer of the kick is the same sample, just with a slightly short decay or sustain. Also there's an EQ in there where I take everything out underneath the 2K, or is this 1300 Hertz, whatever sounds nice. So, and the reason I do that is because I just like those high frequencies to be super snappy, and you can also really manage the, how do you say this? It's a good way to determine if your kick is too loud in the mix, I find. So if I got the drums in here, and let me play the bass as well. So if I take this top kick out, for example, you can really hear if the kick is balanced with the bass in this case. So yeah, that sounds perfectly fine. And then in the other way, it works as well. If you mute your bottom kick, you can hear if the top end of the kick is leveled properly compared to the drums, for example. And you can also gradually kind of mess with this gain to your liking. So that's what I do with my kicks. But just have a utility on there to make it completely mono, which also not really necessary. Up next, wait, let me actually just make sure that the volume is recording this time. Yeah, okay. Not going to do this a third time. Okay. Up next we got the drums. Let me just mute the kick and the bass for a second. So I'll just go through layer by layer. First up we got the clap, which consists of just a regular 909. That also has a really short sustain and a little bit of saturation on there. Took the lows out, made it mono, and it's pre-delayed, if you call it like that, over here. If you enable the delay side on the right side here, you get this extra option where you can kind of delay the overall track a little bit, or actually put it up to the front. So this clap is a little bit in front of the next following kick. Same goes for this top layer, this impact kind of a clap. That's from Joko sample pack. It's also a little bit in front. So if I just have it straight on the kick, it sounds like this. Which doesn't work that well with these samples, so I found that putting them before like this just sounds way better. Sounds more organically. So on here we got a little EQ, little widening going on, and also a little chorus that's on a return channel over here. So that's something I reuse or reapply on different channels, whatever I think it sounds nice. We also got a closed head up here, which is also from a Joko sample pack. This is this track I made it maybe a year ago, 1.5 years ago. Which so some of the processing I got on here, I don't really do it that way anymore. I'll show you in a little bit. It's more usually for compression and side chaining. I do it slightly different now, and also these sends are they work well, but I have a different approach for that in a newer video maybe. So we got a close head here, a little bit of drum reverb, which is the true the true verb, which is the direct reflections or the dry signal, whatever you want to call this, turned all the way down, and the decay time is at 300 milliseconds. So that's a little bit shorter than the initial preset. We got another hi-hat on here that gives a little accent on top of the kick, just to drive it a little bit more. There's an EQ on there and a little bit of side chaining on where the kick is underneath. So it's not completely gone, it's just reduced in volume for around 80%. getting some messages. So the S1 imager is on here. It's just not sure why. Yeah, that doesn't do anything at all. So don't mind that. Up next we got another Piff Choco sample pack thing. So these are likely just ripped or chopped out of an existing drum loop, for example, and you just snip it whatever you want, how you like it, and you just Control J it. So you got your own loopable drum loop, you know? Yes. So that sounds like this. So just a little bit of swing. They're more present on the 16th notes, just to help with the groove a little bit, you know? Processing wise, just an EQ, a little bit of shortening of the sustain, and another EQ to take this resonance out a little bit, which is maybe not even necessary, but it's an older project. Back from when this project actually not that much. In my older tracks, I kind of over EQ'd and removed resonances way too much and completely unnecessary, which is something I kind of tend to not do anymore, just to have it more sounding more full and organically. Up next we got a little snare, I think, yeah. So just a snare with a little bit of EQ in there and room reverb from the Room Small from the FabFilter Pro R. Up next, I'm going to have to do this self-plugging again. This is a drum sample for my yet-to-be-announced sample pack called Stripped Back Beats 01, so the first edition. And it may come out on Loop Cloud, but I might also just release it on my Patreon, which that's probably the thing I'm going to do. So these are all if you go into the sample pack, these are all loops I've created that are exported from previous releases of mine. So they're just really interesting, kind of unique drum patterns that I've programmed myself. So it's not really, it's not really single hits or anything like that I'm going to be releasing in this sample pack. I think maybe there are some kicks, but I think we've got plenty enough of hi-hats in the world already. So I'll try to be a little bit unique with this sample pack, with just offering interesting drum loops or little percussion elements or anything I think sounds kind of unique and interesting. Stuff like that, So yeah, there are some nice little drum grooves in here, which are just, like I said before, sections of pre-released, of earlier released tracks of mine. Got some kicks in here, little bass loops. So yeah, I hope I can release those pretty soon. So we got them in this track. Just drives the groove a little bit. Nothing crazy, a little bit of EQing. Just taking the lows out and these harsh frequencies just a little bit, because those frequencies really can add up and kind of make your mix sound hard on the ears. Up next we got another little top loop of my own sample pack. yeah, to just make the groove a little bit more interesting. And that's all the drums. That's all there is to it. So on the drums, all right. Fucking English, man. Oh, okay. We got some processing on the group of the drums, which is just a little bit of saturation, a little bit of EQ. So if I mute these, you can hear what it sounds like without the group processing on here, or not. Oh, there we go. Got the saturation. Little EQ. And then finally we got the parallel compression, just to kind of bring the body of the drums out a little bit more. So I'll show you how I go about doing this. I've already mentioned this in a previous, and probably will mention this in a future video as well. But yeah, let me just show you how I go about applying compression on my drum groups usually. I mean, it's a matter of taste, and it also depends on the kind of style you're going for. But in this case, I kind of always apply it in the same manner, which is I just take this dry gain down, so you end up with a completely wet signal. Make sure you mute or take off the auto gain and just compress the shit out of it this way. Got almost no attack, no release, so this is the stuff you're taking out. This is almost everything. So now you can just reapply the dry signal, just set it to 0 for example, a little bit less. And then you can gradually apply your wet signal to your liking. So without the wet signal completely dry, it sounds like this. So if you exaggerate it, it sounds like this without, and this is without. And with the parallel compression, it sounds like this. You know, which really just makes your drums come to life, and it gives it this really... Actually, I'm not sure how to describe it. It just sounds more professional, more full, and more properly mixed, and less, fragile. You know, it just sounds like one completely polished drum groove. Up here we got a little widening return track, just to help with the stereo image a little bit. And a little, what is this, the true verb again? Yeah, so just, it sounds nice and consistently, and what do you call it? Sounds like it's in the same room, because practically is in the same room this way. If that makes any sense. Alright, up next we got the drums, the bass, which sounds like this. It's just the initial preset of analog. I'll just show you the MIDI notes real quick. So it's just an analog, it's just 2 sawtooths. Amplification on the amp, it's just got the sustain all the way up, a little less release time, and I unmapped the velocity to the volume. And then here it's just a regular low pass filter, a little bit of envelope and velocity, and yeah, that's it. So without all this processing on here, it sounds like this. So first in the chain we got a utility just to make it mono. Just because this analog, you know, when you have 2 oscillators, the phases can kind of sometimes they get out of phase a little bit, and it starts to actually detune and become stereo for a brief moment, which you can disable by setting it to mono in here. But yeah, anyways, I just did it this way. Afterwards we got an EQ, just taking these frequencies out a little bit more. I always really do quite a lot of surgical EQing on my bass. Not really in this track, but how I determine these surgical EQ points, I show that in more detail in a different video, which is a really important step in your mix down, I think, to have it sound just polished and more professional, I think. Is sometimes people think you can just slap a saturator or whatever OTT plugin on there to just have it sound really warm and full, and I actually came to the realization in the last couple of years that by actually reducing or removing unwanted sounds in the bass, you actually end up with a much warmer sound, and it will be easier to mix with and combine with your kick or any other low end elements you got on here, and just sounds more pleasant to the ears, I think. So without this EQ, the bass sounds like this, and with EQ, and back with, it's just way warmer, easily to manage, and with these dynamic EQ points, you can also kind of shape the transients or the dynamics of your bass a little bit. So this one does have compression on here. It's the CLA2A. Really nice sound. Doesn't do that much, just manages the dynamics a little bit of this sub bass. Afterwards we got sidechaining. Which is the new Kickstart 2 plugin from Nicky Romero. It's really nice, and you also got this multi-band option in here, which is really helpful when you're sidechaining chords or kind of want to have the higher frequencies be more present in your mix down instead of just ducking the entire volume. Afterwards you got a little erosion. And this EQ was disabled, so this is probably I don't know why this is here, but it's disabled. So altogether it sounds like this. Okay. So next up we got the synths. This project is still exactly the way how I left it last time I worked on here. So I don't always group all my drums. Well, drums usually, but I don't always group my synths together and effects or vocals, whatever, and have some processing on there, to tie things together. I think this track was so simplistic and the elements and sample choice just worked really well together that it didn't need really all that crap on there. So this is a little plucky sound that kind of accentuates the bassline a little bit. It's a little just ear candy kind of melody throughout the track. And then every now and then the melody goes up. So processing wise, there's not much to it. It's a Juno patch from the Arturia synth. Arturia Juno, I mean. The patch is called 32 Bass 2. Probably tweaked it a little bit, or not even that maybe. Probably had some reverb on there by default, but I don't really like those. It has a little bit of room on here. And a little bit of EQ processing, just a low cut, so not much to it. We do have the erosion over here to kind of give this sound a little bit of a unique character throughout the track. So without and with erosion. And now afterwards I shaped this frequency. I automated a little bit with this envelope follower, so it kind of moves the erosion frequency every time the note plays, so which sounds like this. And if I push it, yeah, so that's that kind of effect. I have that in some of my older tracks as well, which is how I do it. Which is how I do that. So, okay. Up next we got chords. Yeah, it's just another Juno patch. This one is called Abrasive Softness. Some processing on here, not much to it again. If I mute these. Actually, I'll show you the MIDI as well. Just basic minor chords, I guess. Blues chords, I don't know, man. I don't know music theory that well. I just have to push 2. I have the scale function on, and I just, put my balls on the notes, and it sounds great. So, yeah, I don't really know melodies or the rules of, sometimes your track is in, I don't know, C# minor in this case, and then some of your chords are minor or major or what do you call them? Sustained, whatever. I don't know all the shit. I just go by ear and I kind of, just do what I think sounds well. Sometimes I break out of this scaling with some notes that might sound interesting just to give it a little bit of a, nice sound to it. If that makes any sense. That sounds terrible, of course, but sometimes you can get away with it, especially when you're kind of passing from one note to the next. You kind of get those in between transitions. You can kind of stay out of, you kind of get out of the scale. I'm going to delete this section. Fuck it. All right, you know what I mean. Just edit it out. Okay, we got an EQ on here. Just to manage these resonances a little bit. Yes, another one here. And then we got an EQ on here just to give the hi-hats a little bit of breathing room up in the top. Compression afterwards. Oh, not even. This is just side chaining. Got an auto filter on there. And also this uses the widening return track I showed you earlier. I think I mentioned it in this take of this recording. It's got the widening, the chorus, and a little, what is this, big room reverb from the Pro R. Oh no, actually it's also true verb. Okay. What else? Got a utility on there to make the bass a little bit more mono. Another auto filter just for excitement in the breaks, have a little bit of tension build up. Got a chorus afterwards to just make it a little bit more wider and detuned. Alright. This is actually the same patch, just a different note. There's no processing on here. Besides for this bandpass filter. It's the same patch as the chords above here. So I already checked that in my previous take. Up next we got this, what is this again? Oh yeah. So this is just a little melody riff to make the arrangement a little bit more interesting and less repetitive. Which is a Triton patch called, it's the Korg Triton Vibraphone. A little bit of chorus on here, little low cut, little boost at the 1K, and again this breathing room for the tracks. And also to get this really high VST sounding character out of the sound. You can barely notice this high cut in here, but it really makes a big difference with all these synths combined in the ending mixdown, in the end resulting mixdown. So no sidechaining on here, no compression, nothing crazy. Up next we got this little 16s rhythm kind of steps. Which is also a Triton patch called Rock Organ. No EQing on here, no little auto filter, bandpass, a flanger or phaser, phaser in this case, and a little bit of sidechaining. Up next we have a little dreamy pad melody going on here, just to again make this a little bit more, give it a little bit of a soundscape. Yeah, nothing on there as well, absolutely nothing. Just made it mono. Why? I don't know. This one's not doing anything. Another blue patch. What is this? Oh yeah, little kind of dreamy bell kind of sound. It's a preset in the Blue 2 from Rob Papen. Also no processing on here whatsoever. These are all just on by default, like I mentioned before. So yeah, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, you know. Up next, we've landed at the vocals of this track.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't.
Just a little low cut on there. Yeah, I really thought this track was missing a vocal. And it's just a really funny phenomenon, this stuff he's saying. So yeah, sometimes you can use that stuff in your music. I mean, this whole track was just kind of meant to be a joke, but it's actually one of my tracks I like most, just because of the simplicity of it. Next we got a second take, Joe Biden saying whatever.
So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What happens?
Little bit of transient master in there. I'm not sure why. Just because I think there was some background noise in the sample, which I took out this way. Little bit of reverb, the widening.
So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store
and finally a little raw loops percussive shaky element, which is barely noticeable in the drums, and also not in the drum group. It's just giving it a little bit of ear candy and rhythm there where I thought it was necessary. Took the attack all the way down, so it's just, I don't know, man, maybe it's not even necessary. And then finally we've reached the master chain. So usually I do my own mastering, depending on if it's going to be released on a label where they really want to have their own mastering guy work on it, or sometimes I cannot get the loudness up to standard, so then I'll usually ask a mastering engineer to help me out with that. This case, it's just a simple free download Bandcamp release, which you can still download over at my bandcamp.com, stripped.bandcamp.com. So this doesn't really have that much compression or multiband or anything fancy going on the master chain. I just was really satisfied with the end result, and I didn't think it needed much. So I'll just go about showing you what's on my master chain. It's again this transient master on the high frequencies, which is a little trick from DeMarzo, where you really can make this high frequencies in the drums specifically really come together nicely and have it a little bit more washed out. I'll show you what it sounds like without. This is also on my template, so if I create a new project, this is already on there with the same settings as well. So without this mastering, this on the master chain, the track sounds like this. Which is kind of, kind of fragile drums, to be honest. But you can also solve with the parallel compression on the drums. But I just like how this effect brings it all together, man. Oh, sorry. So again, with and without. And now there's also some background noise in there because of I probably have the chorus of the Juno on there, which I don't know why it does that, man. Oh, actually, chorus noise. I had no idea. Okay, learned something again. But it also has it adds a little nice vibe to the track. So, and it's been published already, so I'm not going to bother with that at this moment. What else? Yeah, so the noise on the erosion on the bass, the noise also gets amplified with this trick, and it just comes together very nicely with the drums. So yeah, that's why I do that. Up next we got a pool tech EQ, just to attenuate the 150 Hz a little bit and boost the 100 Hz in the low end. Especially if I solo the kick and the bass, you can really hear it come together very nicely with this plugin. If I exaggerate it a little bit more. Yeah, it just sounds great, man. And also nothing is being boosted in the highs. I mean, you could... what I often do is I boost and attenuate the 12Ks just a little bit. Something like this, Now if I A-B this, I'll show you what it sounds like without this. And now with. Yeah, it just sounds really, becomes way more full and pleasant on the ears, And also adds a nice little bit of warmth to the low end with this pool tech EQ. You could also maybe get it to sound like that with a certain shape on your Fab filter or stock EQ. I'm not sure. I just like the way this sounds, and I've been doing this. Somebody taught me this at the EM Studio Academy in Amsterdam when I was a student there years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. So, and I get a lot of questions how I do my bass and low end and how to get it sound so full and consistently. And this is how I do that. So it's just quick tech EQ, sometimes just on the kick, sometimes just on the bass, or in this case on the master, and some surgical EQing on the kick and the bass, and yeah, you're good to go, man. We end up at around minus 6 dB headroom here, so you could just put an utility before this to kind of take the volume down a little bit if you're going to send a pre-master, for example. But also, headroom is not that important for pre-masters. It's more about the dynamics of your track. So, I mean, they can also just, if they're mastering in the box, for example, they can also just turn the gain down a little bit, and you've got your headroom, So let me just put this back the way it was. Yeah, so it's not even limiting the kick or any other drums. It's just that snappy clap, which nowadays I would just probably put a clipping tool on the drums or on the clap or heads just to manage that transient a little bit without, really squashing or compressing it. And I could probably achieve more loudness, but for Bandcamp, I just like the way it sounds, man. Maybe not even because it's a Bandcamp release. I just like the way this sounds, and I don't like this to be squashed all the way. No, it needs a little bit of more dynamics. So we're ending up around minus 12, minus 10 dB of LUFS or RMS. I don't know, whatever it's called, but you know what I mean. And there we are. So, how far in are we now? 41 minutes. So, yeah, it's not the longest or shortest video, but I hope you learned something, and I hope this video, gives you some insight in what you could apply on your own mixdowns or club masters or just your sample selection, whatever. Make sure to check out my Bandcamp releases. Follow me on SoundCloud, Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube would also be nice. And what else can we say? I don't know. My sample pack's coming out pretty soon. Buy that and go fuck yourself. Bye. Wrong button. Again, wrong button.